Hi, this is Dan Devlin for The Dan Devlin Show. Honorable people, honorable nation. We chose that title for our programming because the United States is facing very difficult problems, many of which we're going to deal with in this show. Today we're going to talk about perhaps maybe the most important issue of all. Honorable people, honorable nation suggests that in order to have an honorable nation, you must have honorable people. It's impossible to have an honorable nation if you don't have honorable people. And unfortunately today, we have a situation where especially the people who serve our government choose not to be as honorable as they should be. We're going to discuss that, but I want to explain a little bit about where we're coming from in this programming, and then we'll get to the main focus of the issue for today. In addition to this program, I want to give you some resources that you can go to in order to see where we're coming from and look at discussions about the topics that we're going to cover in these shows. We look at the overall picture of human beings and how they come about their decisions. And many people come about their positions from a religious point of view. I happen to be what I would refer to as a fundamentalist Christian. I believe in Scripture, and I often refer to it. But there are other points of view, and all too often, many religions exclude others because they don't believe exactly the way we believe. And the problem is that most of us probably realize that we've changed our views over time, and yet we don't have much tolerance for other people who are at a different position in their life than we are at this particular time. So we're going to refer to Scripture. We're going to talk about various religious views, but beyond that, we're going to talk about the philosophical, logical reasoning for coming to a conclusion as to how we should behave in American society today. One of the resources is FundamentalHumanRights.Org. It's a website that discusses many of the rights that I know that you're concerned about. And we hope that you'll go there. You can reach us at FundamentalHumanRights.Org. You can send us an email at info, or you can use my name, Dan, at FundamentalHumanRights.Org. If you're more from the religious point of view, you might want to go to our website, God'sRevolutionaryChurch.org. We discuss many of the issues that confront predominantly Christians, because we do use Scripture in order to make our point about various issues. But we do stress that it's important to have understanding and respect for others and their viewpoint. It's interesting, I've experienced in my lifetime where some individuals have gone to a number of meetings on various religions, and they, at one point in time, they'll go in one direction and then they'll come back in another. So I hope you'll understand where we're coming from that. The other important aspect of what we're going to discuss has to do with the United States Constitution. We live in the United States. We have a rule book to go by. There are many laws being passed today that are not consistent with what I believe is the foundation of the United States, and that's the Constitution of the United States of America. So we'll be referring to all of those resources, and we hope that you'll maintain some contact with us. Let us know what you're thinking about, and together, hopefully, we can get us back on the right track and deal with some of the major issues and major problems that we have in American society today. You know, I'm kind of a fun-loving person, but there are tremendous things going on in efforts to stop us from moving away from the Constitution, for example. And one of those things that's going on, and the main focus of this particular program, is the question, who is named in the Constitution to receive its benefits? I asked that question of congressmen and judges and people from all different walks of life. You know, you're welcome to do the same. See what they say. Take a second and think about it. Who do you think is named in the Constitution to receive its benefits? You know, there's not just one, which most people will say we the people. And while it's true that we're named, we're not the only group that's named. And the tremendous injustice that's happening today is happening to the other group that's named. And Scott, you know, you might put our little banner up there, and I want you to read this. You know, this is the statement of purpose of the United States Constitution. You know, it starts out and it says, "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity." There are two groups named, not one, two. The first group is ourselves, and the second group is our posterity. Your posterity is all your descendants until the end of time. Now, when I've asked this question to so many people who should know the answer to that, I've often found that one, either they don't know, or they say that word posterity means prosperity. It's the condition of being well off. And while I can understand, while they might hope that that's true, the word posterity has been lost. Most people don't even know what it means. And so it's very important, because that group, our posterity, all our descendants until the end of time, it's the vision of born and unborn descendants. It's the expression of our founders to make the point that we are not doing these things just for ourselves. We're doing it for our unborn descendants in the distant future. Our grandsons, our granddaughters, our great-grandsons and great-granddaughters, and their children as well. This is the reason that we have a constitution in the first place. The United States was formed because we were upset at things that were occurring in society, and we decided, when I say we, of course it wasn't us, but our founders decided that they were going to make a change. You know, they either came to the United States, or if they were born here, they saw things that were going on that they didn't like, and they stood up and they fought. And I want you to remember that this nation exists because individuals decided it was worth them risking their life in order to form a more perfect union. And they didn't do it just for themselves. And this issue is about those who are being denied their existence today. The procedure that has been in the news here recently, called abortions, deals with that second group that's named in the Constitution. And currently, we won't even recognize that group. When I talk to congressmen and judges, and they don't even know who's named in the Constitution, we've been given the impression from Roe versus Wade on that there's no assurance that unborn human beings were named in the Constitution. But the fact of the matter is that not only were they named, unborn individuals were named at the outset. They took the position, our founders took the position, that it was important to name their unborn descendants in the very founding document referred to as the United States Constitution. Now, I normally wouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it because it's important for you to have this information. I wrote the book, The Right of Rights. And I want you to go to our website, FundamentalHumanRights.Org, and I want you to go to the sidebar, click on The Right of Rights. Eventually, you'll get to our store page, and you'll be able to purchase a copy of The Right of Rights. And the reason that I want you to do that is not because it's so important because I wrote it, but it covers this very important issue. This program that you're watching today could be one of the most important things that you could do in order to make us a better society. I talk about religion because many of the people who deal with the abortion issue feel as though it's only a religious issue. But this nation was founded on sound, fundamental human rights principles and religious Christian doctrine. Most of the founders acknowledge that there's something beyond us. And they realize that we have a responsibility to what they would refer to as the Almighty or God, regardless of the name that you choose. For those who have that religious position, and by the way, that's the vast majority of us. We know that in the creation process, we don't think that we created ourselves. And I would make the point that in the creation of a human being, you have a mother and you have a father. I personally believe that God is involved in that equation. But if you don't, you have at least two people who are combining their DNA in order to make this unique individual. But in American society, we've denied that. We claim that we're protecting a woman's right to choose. So she can choose to have this unborn child, or the zygote or fetus, or whatever you want to call it, or she can choose not to. That ignores the reality that the male involved in that process also has rights. This program is about fundamental human rights, and there's no more fundamental human right than the right to be, the right to continue to exist. Now, I'm going to be asking you to do something with this information. And you can change the way American society operates today. You can encourage those who happen to hold office to follow their oath of office and to acknowledge and understand that unborn human beings are our descendants and are named in the United States Constitution. I want you to think for a moment. How can we justify sending a man off to war to defend our rights and our nation, and while he's away defending us, how can we justify allowing his unborn child, his posterity, who is specifically named in the United States Constitution, How can we justify allowing that individual, that child, the posterity of that man who's willing to risk his life for us, how do we justify allowing it to be exterminated and eliminated from existence? You know, the fact of the matter is that we often claim to be a moral people. And people who come at this issue from a religious perspective certainly talk about that often. But regardless of your religious position, if we say that we are a nation that adheres to the rule of law, the most fundamental law is the Constitution of the United States, and the statement of purpose identifies two groups, and our unborn descendants are absolutely part of that group. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. One, to understand, and I've asked this question of very high government officials, how do we justify sending a man off to war and not protecting his interest, his unborn descendants, while he's off defending us? And I've had pretty much consistent answers. Silence. In one case, the official threw his hands up in the air and he dropped them down to his side. That was his answer. And the reason for that is that we cannot justify that at all. And so, while I've been at this fight for a while, people have ignored this reality that we are not the only ones named in the Constitution. And I'm going to guarantee you that that's not going to continue to be the case. We have the ability and we have the power to make sure that our government officials do what they're supposed to do. There are a number of ways to do it. And perhaps this isn't the time, and I don't really have the time to go into it now, but we will cover it in other programs. So I hope you'll continue to watch so you can have these tools that will make us a more honorable nation because we become more honorable people. We have the situation now where Congress is going through hearings and they're wrestling with a number of issues in regards to the recent videos that have been shown pretty widely that display body parts of individuals who have been dissected as a result of an abortion. I'm not going to go into all the things that happen in an abortion, but I want you to know that those things are happening to individuals who are named in our Constitution. In Roe versus Wade, the justification for withholding rights from unborn human beings was that we could find no assurance that the word person applied to unborn human beings. Well, the Supreme Court of the time failed to ask the question who is named in the Constitution. I want you to know who is named. I want you to tell every single person you know who is named in the Constitution. Beyond that, we need to contact our legislators, the people who work for us, the people who take an oath to follow that Constitution, to support and defend that Constitution, to immediately call for a moratorium, the halting of abortions in this country. The rule of law in this country is we don't execute people and then have a hearing or a trial afterwards to find out whether he was guilty. Now, it's certainly possible that I could be wrong on any of the positions that I take. But most people who understand about the Constitution, about religious principles, about moral positions, understand that I am not wrong here. But understanding that that would be a possibility, at minimum, what we need to do is to halt those abortions so we don't execute those who may be covered by that Constitution. Most of you people who are listening to me right now, you understand that that absolutely is the case. There will be legal arguments and people will wrestle back and forth, but I want to talk to your heart. You know that every single one of us exists here today because we were allowed to continue through that stage of life in the womb, otherwise we wouldn't be here today. So this is not just a religious issue. It's a moral issue. It's a constitutional issue that we need to acknowledge and we need to go by and live by and change what is happening in American society as quickly as possible, because we don't want to have to be in the position that there were a number of young people who could have been saved, but because we would not act, they were not. There are other remedies for things like overpopulation, if you believe that that's happening. But I see no honor in a nation who will take someone who absolutely is not responsible for the problem and cause them pain and suffering and eliminate them from existence. And I think that you're going to believe that as well. So I'm calling for today for our legislators, not only at the national level, but at the local level, our state level, to recognize that our unborn descendants are absolutely named in the Constitution, and as Justice Blackmun suggested, is personhood proven? You could argue, well, that doesn't mean the word person, but it goes beyond that. It talks about what individuals are supposed to receive the exact same benefits from the Constitution in this nation as yourselves. Scott, if you could throw that back up there on the screen one more time, I want you to look at these words. Remember, the Constitution says, we, the people of the United States. That's us. That means you. In order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to two groups, ourselves and our posterity. I want you to know how important this is today. You're going to make the difference. You can contact us at FundamentalHumanRights.Org. You can email us at info or Dan at FundamentalHumanRights.org and let us know that you care. Purchase one of our books. Look at the other information that's there. But join, do not sit silently. We're counting on you. To have an honorable nation, we must have honorable people. I'm asking you to be that. I'm giving you a method to do that. Do not let your congressman, do not let the individual who calls himself the president, do not let him defeat the foundation of what we are. This is the Dan Devlin Show. Honorable people, honorable nation. And you heard at the outset, we cannot have an honorable nation if we do not have honorable people. I'm trusting you. I need you to stand with us in order to get this done. This is your country. These are your descendants. It's going to be up to you. We'll do our part. We hope that you will do your part as well. I'll leave you with one final thought. We exist today, and the United States of America exists because you're here today. You're part of what happens here. It's we, the people, who have the responsibility to make sure that those named in the Constitution are recognized, that we honor their rights, and we defend their rights. As I close here, I'm going to put my faith in you. And I want you to stand with us in order to make a difference. A very important difference. This is Dan Devlin for The Dan Devlin Show. Honorable people, honorable nation. God bless you all.